And good afternoon, Bruce Pearson with Jersey Talk Radio with you. We are on site on this Thursday afternoon and in Morristown, New Jersey at the Hyatt. We're at the Jersey Access Group Conference, and I have with me a gentleman from Arvada.
Arvada, Colorado.
Arvada. Now, I don't know. I always used to call it Arvada when I lived out that way. An attorney who works in communication law and communication consulting, and certainly that's a necessary evil when you're fighting the big boys in, well, let's say in Trenton here in New Jersey or in Washington. More often you're handling, dealing with issues in Washington. Is that correct?
I do a lot of work in Washington, and some of the work that I do with local governments, depending upon which state, it can be in the state capital. So we've done a little bit of work here with the Board of Public Utilities, do a lot of work in Denver with their Public Utilities Commission and state legislature, and similarly in some of the other states we've worked in too. So sometimes we're in D.C., sometimes we're in the state capital.
And before I go any further, Ken Feldman is your name, and I wanted to get that out. And I apologize, but for our folks at home. Now, your consulting service is usually with municipalities or with cable companies, or how does that work, if you would?
Never with the industry service providers. Most of my clients are local governments.
Okay.
Towns, townships, cities, counties. Sometimes it's regional consortia.
Okay.
And it's on a wide variety of communications issues. It can be cable television franchise negotiations. It can be gas and electric.
Oh, okay. So
battles, zoning issues for wireless communications. A lot of public safety communications.
So any utilities or regulated utility focus is where you are in terms
right.
of...
Well, and I'm usually on the other side of those companies. So again, whether it's the Comcast...
But it's rated utility issues, generally.
They are utility issues, but some of them actually are just straight contract or zoning issues.
I see.
So if Verizon Wireless wants to put a tower up on a piece of property and there are certain zoning laws that apply to that, I'm usually on the local government side of advising how the federal laws interact with local land use authorities.
I have to tell you, years ago, I was involved in getting fiber run for one of the universities here where I was working, and with PSE&G and Verizon. What a stupid, wasteful, bloody nightmare just to get all the contracts signed to hang the fiber on the poles. It was like 30 layers of people that had to be approved.
It's tough. And
engineers and so on.
I always find it ironic and amusing, if it would be amusing, it was so frustrating. It's a lot of those businesses that complain about government being bureaucratic, but you try to get a contract through...
That was PSE&G and Verizon and Comcast and Cablevision, and they all had, equipment hanging on the poles. Well, you would have thought that I asked them to cut the poles down and walk away from it, and for 300 or 400 feet of right-of-way.
It can be very frustrating, and frankly, that's why lawyers get work every now and then, because the companies make it so hard for the regular staff people who are trying to get the job.
And that's why it costs millions of dollars to get something done that really would take a couple of days or just went out there and
it's
did
true.
it.
I'd rather work with a community that was building their own broadband network and trying to figure out how to improve communications in their community. And I do a lot of that, but I can tell you stories about cases that I've gotten only because the utility company was acting so poorly, and it's unfortunate when that happens, but it does happen.
Sure it does. And it certainly, the consumer completely feels, left out in the wilderness because, I've heard those stories and I have dealt with them as a consumer with trying to get any satisfaction from the Board of Public Utilities in this state. You're better off just rolling your complaint up and smoking it, because it's never going to go anywhere. And I literally woke up very early this morning, looked at my cell phone, no wireless service. It had gone back to the cell. So I do a couple international shows, so texts will come in at 2 in the morning because in New Zealand it's 3 in the afternoon. I'm looking, I said, oh man, there's no wireless service on my internet. So I go over into my office. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I go, I wonder if there's a problem, or I just have to reboot it. No internet connectivity. It's there. The router's working. So I rebooted it, still didn't come on. Now I've wasted 20 minutes, so I go on the Comcast line, the 800 line for service. Oh, we noticed that by your phone number that you're reporting you've encountered a service problem. We intend to have it fixed by Friday at 6 a.m. Okay, that's fine. 2 or 3 days, I don't have service. Are you going to give me a rebate on my bill? Since the bill in total is close to $200. So it's not insignificant. First of all, I wouldn't have known until you sneak it in under the door. That's the kind of things that make individuals feel totally powerless to get anything done. And because it's not worth pursuing a $4 issue. The bigger issues that I see in this marketplace is the growing disparity between the people on fixed income's ability to pay for these basic services, and unfortunately internet is rapidly becoming a basic service. Since most people have dropped their copper landlines for phones, especially elderly, it's a necessary service to have some phone service. And if it's bundled in or it costs you $50 to get enough internet with a phone service, or $60, that's a burden that a lot of them can't carry. So I mean, there's serious issues about this. In terms of this community, I am amazed that we haven't seen a pushback and say, well, you're going to distribute on the internet now by streaming, so we're not going to give you as much money anymore because you have an alternative way to distribute your signal. Have you seen any of that nationwide?
I've seen it all over the country.
Get out of here.
Exactly the issue that you just raised when a city or a town is sitting down with a cable operator trying to negotiate its next franchise agreement and talking about what kind of support they're going to get for their government access channel.
Wow.
Constantly you're hearing, well, you're putting stuff out over the internet now, you can have your YouTube channel, you can use this mechanism or that mechanism to get your programming online, so the cable part of it is not as important. Now, most of the time, that's what you hear, and a city that is sophisticated and has studied the issues and has strategized on how to negotiate for that can usually push back. And actually, every now and then, there are some cable companies that have recognized that even though it's not cable, it's internet, that maybe if they want to be a good partner, they should try to help the community get their programming online.
Well, they're selling internet also. So it's not like they're not deriving revenue from that portion of that service. So it's also serving their interest that people are watching content on internet, whether, you know, they're selling both items. So I mean, that's not as strong an argument as one would think. But I haven't heard about it because I don't deal with that topic every day. But I said, man, there's going to be some pushback as we go to more and more content consumption on the internet. And you have 200,000 or 300,000 people a month in this country cutting the cable, especially millennials and younger. They're just not going to waste their time paying for $150 for cable and watching everything on Netflix or YouTube. Well, sorry.
No, you're right. And basically the cable model, the package, the big packages of lots of channels, that's going away. I don't know exactly when it's going to go away.
And it's going to go away by the force of the marketplace, whether they like it or not.
Because it's not sustainable.
Well, and the bundling where you got 80 channels that nobody watches thrown in, and they tell you got 200 channels. Well, I only need 8 of those channels. Well, you can't break them out. It's the automotive industry went down that road where we used to, many years ago, you order the pickup truck with what heater, what radio. Now, not only do you have, here's the colors and here's the package, and there's no way to unbundle it. Well, I really don't want aluminum wheels. Well, that comes with the package. And by the way, we have 6 colors and there's 200 of them on the lot. You either take what you want or go someplace else. The same thing happens with cable. I don't want the religious channels, the shopping channels, the Lifetime movie, all the ladies network channels. I don't want all that. Well, sorry, that comes in the bundle, but you're getting 200 channels. So this is a problem, and hopefully the force of the marketplace will flush that out.
I think it will, but unfortunately, I also think that the result of it is that the revenue that local governments generate in franchise fees and the PEG fees, they're also going away. So when that model changes, it'll be better for consumers in the sense that consumers will be able to get online just the channels that they want, but the kind of revenue that the local governments have been receiving that help them fund the public access and the government access and all that local programming, that's going to change. And at least when I'm talking to local leaders these days, usually we're talking about how do we think of a future where that money's not available, and if this kind of programming is important to us, how are we going to fund it going forward?
I would suggest, as an observer and a broadcast journalist, that you ought to also bring into the discussion the fact that you don't have local news outlets anymore. You don't have a local paper. You don't have, where do business people advertise? The local radio station doesn't have live daytime talk, morning talk. So there needs to be a crossover and say the public-private partnership needs to be at least put on the table. Meaning, go to the local businesses and say, start underwriting our community channel, make it a viable alternative to the non-existent newspaper. The weekly newspaper's gone. Where do you guys advertise? You're a business. Where do you advertise? We'll give you a place to advertise. Where do you get your news? You're a member of the community. There is no place to get the news anymore. Denver doesn't cover your town too well, does it? Unless there's a murder, or robbery, or big fire, or whatever, car wreck. So where do you get your news? Well, this is a stimulant, a shot in the arm to an otherwise dying commodity, and that is back in the analog days and the digital days, and they won't give you HD days. Now, you're HD. The community channel is HD. It's got worldwide coverage. It's on demand. It's got all of the technical advantages that all the big boys have. It's an even playing field, and those other alternative outlets don't exist. So that's the opportunity to say, yeah, you know what, we're losing some of the cable revenue. So be it. Let's transition into something a little different. I don't know. Do you hear that, or am I swinging in?
It is a possibility.
Am I beating the backstop to death?
No, you're not. The challenge is it's sort of like the public television model, right? Because you can't do traditional advertising like you could on a broadcast.
You can do underwriting grants and acknowledgments.
Exactly. And there have been some stations, not a lot, but some stations that have been successful in doing that kind of thing. I think because, this isn't a knock on government, because most people are like this. We're like this with our own businesses. Most are reactive, not proactive.
And they're reluctant to change,
I think the idea that you just suggested, you're probably going to see more and more access operations looking at that as a potential option in the future.
Well, we're kind of running out of time, so I'm going to have to call this short, and I know attorneys bill by the hour, so you hate to do that. So.
Well, this one's on the house. It's been great to talk to you. It's always great to be back.
Ron, thank you very much. Pleasure to meet you. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good fight, and don't let the Friendly Candy Company off the hook down there in Washington or any other constituents. We certainly appreciate it.
Okay,
this is Bruce Pearson. We're Jersey Talk Radio, and we are live at the JAG conference. We just finished with Ken Feldman of Arvada. Did I say it right, or Arvada?
Arvada.
All right.
Here's how you remember this. Rhymes with Nevada.
Nevada, all right. Arvada,
and I am
Colorado.
a partner in the law firm of Kissinger and Feldman. If any of your listeners want to talk more about this with me, they can certainly get in touch with me.
And that's as it sounds, right? KISS as in Henry?
Right. And our website is K and F, with the word "and" spelled out. So there's my little...
KNF.com?
KNF.com, and
easy.
Be happy to talk to any interested folks
municipalities or whatever.
Great.
Let's hope somebody gets in touch with you.
All right.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the conference and safe travels back home. Bruce Pearson, Jersey Talk Radio, and we will be back with another interview in just a minute, so don't go away. Thanks for being with us. And good afternoon again, folks. Bruce Pearson with Jersey Talk Radio. We are on site at the Jersey Access Group Conference in Morristown, New Jersey. Historic Morristown, New Jersey. I'm with Michael Bibbo, who is a senior producer